Let's start with this idea from Morgan Housel because it really gets to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? Most of us are pretty good at saving money, at accumulating it, but we're not so great at actually using it to build a life we love. So what if the old rules, the ones we all learned about retirement, are actually holding us back? What if they were built for a world of fear instead of a life of well-being?
For decades, we've all been handed this specific playbook for retirement. It's all about being cautious, preserving what you have, and it uses this one-size-fits-all approach that, let's be honest, just doesn't fit most of us anymore. It's a model based on one single core belief. And that belief is called age-based allocation. I'm sure you've heard this a million times. Just subtract your age from 110, and poof, that's how much you should have in stocks. So if you're 65, that means only 45% in stocks and a massive 55% in bonds. But here's the catch. That neat little formula was built for a totally different time. With people living so much longer today, this model can actually become a trap, slowly but surely eating away at your money's buying power right when you need it most.
Okay, but there is a different way to think about all this. It's a philosophy built not on fear, but on growth and abundance. And it comes with some pretty serious credibility. We're talking about the exact strategy that Warren Buffett himself has set up for his own estate plan. And, if it's good enough for the Buffett family, it's definitely worth a closer look for us. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because this chart lays out two totally different ways of seeing the world. On one hand, you've got the traditional rules. They're all about just preserving your capital. Bonds are the safe anchor, and the big idea is that you have to get more scared, more conservative as you get older. They basically build their entire strategy around the 25% of years when the market is down. But the 90-10 model, it flips that script completely. Its main goal isn't just preservation, it's wealth regeneration. It sees a market dip as a temporary hurdle, not a disaster. And it's built to take advantage of the 75% of years that markets are actually up. It's a total mindset shift. So how does this thing actually work in practice? Well, the most beautiful part of this whole strategy is just how simple it is. Seriously. There are just two pieces to this puzzle, and each one has a very specific and very powerful job to do.
And here it is, the whole plan, right here on this simple chart. 90% of your portfolio is the growth engine. It's designed to do one thing, capture the long-term power of the market. And that other 10%? That's your liquidity. That's your volatility cushion. It's the secret weapon that lets the growth engine run wild without you ever having to worry.
Okay, now this is huge. This 90% engine isn't about trying to pick the next hot stock. No way. It's about simply owning the market through super cheap index funds. We're talking about things like VOO, which tracks the 500 biggest US companies, or VTI, which gives you a piece of the entire US stock market. This is your ticket to long-term compounding growth, without all the crazy fees that just eat away at your returns. Now this 10%, this is where the real genius is. It's not invested for growth. Think of it like a parking spot for your cash in a high-yield money market fund. This little buffer gives you 1, maybe 2 years of spending money. So when the market inevitably takes a dive, you are not forced to sell your stocks when they're down. Nope, you just pull from your cash and wait for the recovery. This, right here, is what lets you sleep at night. So why are we so against bonds? Well, because that feeling of safety comes at a really steep price. Take a look at this chart. Historically, after you account for inflation, stocks have given a real return of around 7%. Long-term bonds, a measly 2.7%. That difference, that 4+% gap, is a massive haircut on your growth every single year. It's a silent killer that can shrink your wealth way more than a temporary market dip ever could. All right, so we've built the portfolio. But now we get to the most important question of all. How do we actually spend the money? And to answer that, we have to talk about the most famous and maybe the most broken rule in all of retirement planning. Let's just put it out there. Is the 4% rule, the thing that's been the foundation of retirement advice for like 30 years, is it broken? Well, the short answer is yeah, pretty much. Because it was designed to solve a problem that most of us will simply never have. It was built for an absolute worst-case scenario. See, the 4% rule was meant to be completely bulletproof. The guy who created it, William Bengen, called it a safe max rule because it was tested against the absolute worst times in history, like retiring right before the Great Depression. But look at this, even Bengen himself has walked it back over the years. Today, he advocates for a 5% rule. For decades, this overly cautious 4% rule has literally caused millions of people to underspend and live smaller lives, all because of fear. So let's look at our regenerative model instead. And the math here is just beautifully simple. Your 90% in stocks gets you about a 7% real return over time. Your 10% in cash basically keeps up with inflation.
Put it together, and you have a blended real return of about 6.3%. So, what happens if you withdraw 6%? Well, on average, your portfolio earns back what you spend. It literally regenerates itself. And never forget this number, 75%. 3 out of every 4 years, the stock market goes up. The old playbook forces you to plan your entire life around that one bad year. This new model lets you plan for the 3 good ones and just use your cash cushion to sail through the occasional storm. It just makes more sense. So at the end of the day, what does this all add up to? Well, it's way more than just a financial strategy. It's a deep psychological shift. It's about changing your whole perspective on retirement from one of scarcity and just trying to survive to one of abundance and actually living. This quote just says it all. I mean, really, what is the point of a lifetime of saving and investing if you don't use it to fund a life full of memories and experiences? Dying with a huge pile of unspent money isn't a victory. It's a tragedy of missed opportunities. And this slide just lays out the daily choice perfectly. The scarcity mindset, which is fueled by those old fear-based models, questions every single expense. The default is always no. But the abundance mindset, which is backed by a portfolio that's built to regenerate, knows that these experiences are the whole point. It gives you the confidence, based on data, to say yes. I absolutely love this phrase, high stakes bingo. It's that phase of life where you stop playing for small potatoes and you start intentionally using your money for the big, unforgettable experiences. The trips, the family reunions, the good seats. This isn't being reckless. This is the entire goal of the plan. So, we end right back where we started. This strategy is about making your wealth visible, letting you see its potential not just as a number on a screen, but as a real tool for building a better life. So the only question left is the most important one of all. How are you going to use it?